Hey, it's me, Henry. I run a pet care business here in New York, and I'm 30. The job's solid, pays the bills, and I'm good. I've got a place, a car, and a little office that gets a lot of sun, which lets me work late sometimes. You might think I have it made. A happy, supportive family is supposed to be behind me. But nope, not anymore. Maybe the one I ditched a year ago. I can still see myself standing there at a giant family get-together and saying, I'm done. It wasn't a simple choice. When things get real quiet and things aren't going your way, you either gotta keep moving or break free. I'm telling you this, not to point fingers or make excuses, but to remember that if you really want a life, you gotta be willing to let go of stuff you thought you couldn't live without. I left my family on Easter last year and I haven't looked back. After weeks of drizzling rain, the sun finally showed up, warm enough to dry everything off. I left Manhattan early, driving past everyone on their way to church, happy our family was finally all in one place again. I'm always early. I aim for 15 minutes early. This time was no different. When I got there, the house was buzzing, full of talk and laughter. It was way more crowded than usual, with family I hadn't seen in ages. Mom mentioned Dad had a big announcement, but didn't say what. I knew Mom adored chocolate mousse cake from this little bakery tucked away in a Brooklyn alley, so I set it on the counter. Usually, I'd bring her something, a nice bottle of red wine, a fancy box of pastries, or even a bouquet of her favorite flowers. Lately, I'd been doing this. These little gifts never really closed the gap between us, but I kept hoping they'd somehow help me keep a tiny bit of that sunshine I was always trying to embody. 20 minutes later, the party kicked off. Usually, there'd be the sound of glasses, the smell of grilled meat and baked potatoes, and the usual talk about houses, the stock market, and the kids' schools. I just sat there at the edge of the table, eating and listening. Didn't say anything, didn't have to. Around half an hour after everyone had settled in, Dad stood up, raised his wine glass, and started talking in that loud voice he reserved for big announcements. Everyone, quiet down, please. We have something to tell you. The room went totally silent right away. He said, our family has made a decision. Starting today, all the assets, including the company, the stocks, and the properties, are being given to Mateo. The room just froze, and my heart skipped a beat. Just like everyone expected, the clapping was loud, quick, and excited. Then, almost as if on cue, Mom spoke up, her eyes sparkling like she'd finally found her purpose. Mateo's been working at the family business for 5 years now, and he'll be the one to carry on the family name to take it to the next level. I just sat there staring at my glass of water after they said all that. The glasses felt ice cold in my hand, but it didn't ease the ache in my chest. The clapping was like a ton of bricks hitting my chair. Nobody asked me anything. No one even looked my way. Not a single person wondered, hey, what about Henry? I was right there, but invisible. They just acted like I wasn't even part of it. I knew they liked Mateo, sure, but I never imagined it'd be this. My little brother Mateo, he's 2 years younger. We weren't best buddies growing up, but we never really fought either. Because my whole childhood was about fairness, I always figured Mom and Dad saw us as equals. Everything was always split right down the middle. 2 birthday cakes, 2 identical bags of candy, even 2 almost identical bikes, just different colors. We always got the same punishment, too. If we messed up, nobody got off easy. Remember that time we drew all over the walls? Mom made us both kneel and scrub every single mark off. No favorites. I believed my family was fair until I turned 18. One night in early September, I was sitting in the living room and I told Dad I wanted to be a vet. A real-life veterinarian. I'd looked at schools, picked one, and even got a partial scholarship. All I needed was a little help with the rest of the money. I figured he'd ask about my plans, give me some advice, or at least nod and seem supportive. But nope. He just sat there with his arms crossed, this icy stare on his face like I'd just confessed to something terrible. He said, I'm not paying a dime for that. If that's what you want, you're on your own. That one sentence, so short and final, just crushed everything I thought family was supposed to be. I didn't understand it then. I never got why choosing my own career felt like I was betraying them. It took forever to realize my path just didn't fit their plans, you know? After that, I wasn't the golden child anymore. Mateo became the family favorite that all shifted after I told Dad I wanted to be a vet. It wasn't a big blow-up, more like a slow fade. I just quietly drifted away. I guess that's what you get for not following the family script. Even though we grew distant, I was always there if they needed me. Mother's Day roses every year for Mom. When Dad's air conditioning went out last summer, I was right there helping. And I kept showing up even when things got rough for the company. I never kept track of what I gave. So maybe the hurt was so intense because it came from the one person who I thought would never make me feel like an outsider. My dad. Last year, he called late one night. His voice was all shaky and quiet, like he'd been wrestling with himself before he picked up the phone. I'll never forget what happened. The company was in a real jam that night. They needed $80,000 pronto because some huge deal fell apart at the last second. I even suggested writing something up, showing everyone my contributions, but he shut that down fast. He just said one thing: when your mother and I are gone, you'll still have a share of the company. This is family business after all. That's all I needed to hear. I wired the money the next morning. The only thing that sealed the deal after my dad paused on the phone for a long time was his low voice. When your mom and I are gone, you'll still get part of the company. It was a family thing, he said, and I just nodded. He kept going on about family, and I was dumb enough to believe him. Now I think I should have gotten something in writing. Maybe I should have seen it coming. Some people only care about family when it suits them. Last Easter, when my dad said Mateo was getting everything, I didn't just shut up like I usually did. My voice was strong, and I asked, "What about me?" The question hung in the air while everyone held their wine glasses. The room went totally silent. Some people looked at me like they were finally seeing me. Whispers started up all over the room. "Yeah, what about Henry?" I'm Mateo's older brother, in case you were wondering. As the tension built up, my mom stepped in, trying to smooth things over like she always did, trying to make something awful sound okay. "Henry, you've already got a job, a house, a car, but Mateo, he doesn't have anything." After she said that, I looked her right in the eye. I spoke quietly, but every word hit like a rock. "That job, I built it from scratch. I left home when I was 18 and figured everything out myself. I never took a penny from you or Dad. I got a scholarship, worked my way through school, and saved every single dollar. Meanwhile, you paid for all of Mateo's stuff, and now you're just giving him everything like I don't even exist. I'm your son, too." Before I could even get a word in, Mateo, all smug, piped up, "Mom's right, you shouldn't be competing with me." I whirled around, pointing at him. "Shut up," I snapped. "You don't have a say in this." The room went totally silent. Then boom, my dad slammed his fist on the table. His voice was high-pitched and sharp, like each word was a punch. "That's enough, Henry," he yelled. "Mateo followed the plan we made. You didn't. If you hadn't gone and gotten into that animal stuff, this company would be yours." I just froze. Then I blurted out, "What in the world are you talking about? That's a total insult. Do you even realize those filthy animals, as you call them, helped me make the 80 grand that saved your company? And if you think my job is so beneath you, then pay me back right now." He jumped up, face bright red, eyes blazing. "I'm not giving you a single cent," he roared. "I brought you into this world, raised you, fed you, schooled you. Do you have any idea how much I spent on you? And now you're cleaning up after dogs and cats. You're an embarrassment." That was it. I was done. After like half a minute, I finally spoke, trying to keep my voice calm. "If that's how you really feel, then we're done. Don't bother contacting me again." I turned to leave, but paused. "Goodbye, Dad," I said, not apologizing. "I never asked to be born, so don't throw your so-called sacrifices in my face to make me feel guilty about not following your plan, and don't use them to pressure me into shouldering this family's burdens." So I walked out of there with my chin up, and I didn't give it a second glance. That night, I was back at my place before 9. I bolted straight for the bathroom. I cranked the water on full blast. I had to wash away all the anger, the unfairness, and the pain from that whole night. Almost 20 minutes went by before I finally came out. I felt a little lighter, like my head wasn't so heavy, but that quiet emptiness was still there. I made myself a big mug of strong black coffee to stay awake. Sitting by the window, I thought about the day I turned 18 and left home with just an old suitcase, a few clothes, and the cash I had saved. Even with a part-time job, I could barely afford to live. My parents never once checked in on me during those years. The first couple of years after I graduated, I lived in a tiny studio apartment. I was cutting corners every month to pay back those student loans. Then something totally unexpected happened in my third year. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. I didn't have any plans or a shift that day. Suddenly, I had a crazy thought. Why not make a pet care video? So that's what I did. I used books and shoeboxes as a tripod, leaned my phone up against it, and just talked like I was chatting with a friend. After I was done, I uploaded the video to Facebook and YouTube. I did it just for fun, with no expectations. If anyone saw it, cool. If not, no big deal. But within 2 days, it exploded. In less than 48 hours, it had almost 3 million views across the platforms. I was completely blown away. I kept refreshing the page, thinking it had to be some kind of mistake. Then the comments and messages started pouring in, and I understood that people really needed to hear what I had to say. I kept making more videos. My goal was to share what I knew. Then bam, 2 grand hit my account from ads and sponsors. A month later, I just sat there staring at that money, totally shocked. I felt anxious like, was this real life? But it kept growing. 9 months later, 1 million YouTube subscribers. A year later, over 2 million followers everywhere. Suddenly, all these pet supply companies were hitting me up wanting to work together, sponsor my videos, send me free stuff to review. It hit me then, this wasn't just a hobby anymore. It was like a whole other thing. Finally, thanks to everyone who supported me, I opened my own pet store. I called it Whisker and Paw because I wanted to spread the love. It's something I never got growing up. The first store. Way more successful than I ever dreamed. Maybe it was all the people who'd been with me since the beginning. Or maybe they just felt how much I cared about everyone, the two-leggers and the four-leggers. After a few months, I needed to hire more people, extend our hours, and start looking for a second location. A year later, we opened that second branch. 4 years after that, 7 stores across the city with over 30 employees. Some of them have been with me almost from day one. Others joined later, but they're all part of my little family now, you know? I don't ever brag about it, especially not to my family. That's something a mentor taught me when I was just starting out, when nobody knew who I was. He said something that still bugs me. I've never bragged about my successes, not even to my own folks. Back then, I just didn't get it. I figured, why wouldn't I tell my family? Shouldn't they be the first to know about the good stuff? But as I got older, I saw things differently. Jealousy, man, everyone's got it. Some people have way more than others. Telling people about your accomplishments isn't just about getting praise. It's like flashing a wad of cash. They figure you'll be loaning money, sharing your business secrets, always doing favors. And since it's family, when you say no, that praise turns into hard feelings, real resentment. So I kept my mouth shut. I still went home for the holidays. I always brought pastries, presents, maybe a nice bottle of wine or something thoughtful for Mom. But I never mentioned my money, my staff, or any new projects. They saw me as Henry, the pet sitter. To be honest, I liked it that way. Then about 6 months after Easter dinner, I stopped texting, calling, or going home. My parents, Charles and Margaret Walker, did the same. Not a single text, no surprise calls, nothing. It felt like they'd planned my disappearance. Honestly, I wasn't sad at first. Waking up without checking for a message from Mom felt like a huge weight had been lifted. Every night I could just chill in my apartment, drink coffee late at night, and work without that nagging feeling of family obligations. It was the first time in years I could actually put my finger on it, freedom. But then, 6 months later, my phone rang as I was making a second cup of coffee on a Saturday morning. It was Dad. His name popped up on the screen and I froze. Standing in the kitchen, I clutched my half-empty coffee cup, my thumb hovering over the decline button, but I didn't press it. I briefly wondered if somehow they'd changed their minds and would call to apologize. I have no idea why I thought that. Maybe I still wanted to think they'd actually thought things through. Maybe, after everything that had happened, I still held onto a sliver of hope. After a few rings, I answered. My dad got straight to the point, no greetings or anything. He just said, "Henry, the company's in big trouble. Mateo signed a bad contract. Now we're facing $120,000 in damages," he asked. "Can you help us for the family's reputation for the Walker name?" Without even thinking, I replied that $80,000 was plenty. "Dad, if you want my help, start by paying that back first." The line went silent. He probably looked pissed or bummed out, but I couldn't care less. Before he could say anything, I added, "And if all you're worried about is the family name, let me remind you that name never did a damn thing for me." I let them deal with the $120,000 mess after I hung up. After telling my dad no on the phone the day before, I thought they'd leave me alone. I was wrong. The next morning, the doorbell started ringing, loud, fast, and really insistent. After 7 a.m., no politeness at all, pushy, demanding like someone was trying to force me out. I hesitated when I opened the door. Mateo and my parents were standing there. I didn't ask them to come. I totally blocked the doorway, making it clear that this wasn't a shared space anymore. I knew exactly why they were standing there, so I just flat out said it, but I kept my voice even. "If you're here for the 120 grand, you can just turn around. I'm not doing it." My words sort of hung in the air, even though I was talking real soft. As soon as I was done, my mom backed up. Something else was making her eyes red. Not tears. Maybe stress, maybe she was just totally bummed, or maybe she was straight up furious. With nowhere else to turn, she spoke next, trying to sound nice, but you could tell she was wound tight. "Henry, you own a whole bunch of pet stores. 120,000 isn't even that much to you. I'm begging you. If you don't help, the company's gonna go under. Our whole family will lose everything." Mateo took a half step closer. They didn't even look at me. I'd never heard him sound so small. "Henry, please, just this once. I know I screwed everything up. I know I ruined everything." I didn't say a word. I just let them talk, didn't say a thing. My head didn't even shake. I just stared at them, gripping the doorframe like my walls were gonna crumble if I let go. After a moment, I said it slow, "Leave before I call the cops." My dad's face just went hard as a rock right away. My mom started to say something, but I cut her off. I repeated myself louder this time just to make sure there was no confusion. "I'm done with all of you. You have to deal with what you did. All the playing favorites, all the ignoring, Mateo too. If the company goes down, it's not a tragedy, it's just what happens, and I'm not the one who's gonna save anyone." I slammed the door. Done. I went back to my cold coffee. The second they left, my thoughts were already racing. This question just popped into my head while I was taking a drink, and I just froze. How on earth did they know I owned 7 stores? I never said anything. Kept my mouth shut always. I kept them at arm's length always. Even at those rare family get-togethers before everything went sideways, I never talked about how big my business was or how much money I made. They weren't following me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Then it hit me. YouTube. That was the one thing I couldn't hide. I still put up videos about pet care, sweet little clips about my job and my love for animals. Maybe someone they knew sent them a link, or maybe they found it themselves. That thought just sent chills down my back. It wasn't because I was scared of being found out, though. I knew what they were like when they saw a chance to take advantage of someone. I acted fast. I picked up my phone, went to my messages, and typed out each word very carefully. Those messages were like warning shots. "If you, Mom or Mateo, do anything that hurts my business or reputation, I will sue." I really meant it. After sending it, I hoped they wouldn't do anything stupid. Mateo ignored my warning and kept going. The next day, he put stuff up on Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram. My friends sent it to me after I didn't see it right away. My employees and the press started asking me questions. I didn't need to read every word to understand what he was saying. His post said I abandoned my family when they were almost broke, that I didn't help my parents when they asked. He said I kicked them out of my house like they were nothing. Yeah, he brought up how I'd messed up with my own family, which was rough. This whole thing was such a mind bender, I couldn't even figure out what was actually going on anymore. Nobody gives a crap about what really happened, you know? They just want a sob story with some rich bad guy, a poor, good family, and a really awful finish so they can all talk trash and judge. After Mateo put his stuff online that morning, I started losing clients like crazy. So many grooming appointments got canceled, and our company's social media was just flooded with stuff. My inbox was full of nasty messages, and if I didn't do something, I was seriously looking at closing up shop. That afternoon, I hit up Brian, an old friend and lawyer who helped me with my first store lease. Without even calling, I just texted him one thing: "Need to see you ASAP." Brian managed to squeeze me in between 2 meetings. His office was super neat, quiet, and bright, with a whole wall of windows. I told him the whole story, and he just sat there behind his desk with his fingers all locked together. I gave him printed comments, some revenue numbers to show how bad things were, and a screenshot of Mateo's original post, which I'd saved. When I was done, he looked up, crossed his arms, and gave me a smile that was hard to read. Then Brian said, "Dude, you just won the lottery." I kind of scrunched up my face. After a couple of seconds, I asked, "What do you mean?" Brian laughed and leaned in a little. "I mean, you're totally good. Everything Mateo did, the post, the damage to your business, your personal reputation, and your brand reputation. It's a solid civil case, no problem. While with all this stuff you've got, you're looking at a serious chunk of money. I just knew it. It was like this huge weight was gone." Brian kept going, real cool, saying Mateo was going to get what was coming to him, both legally and in his wallet. And if things went well in court, the money could be way more than I'd lost. I shut up. Yeah, I just nodded. Then I opened my bag, slapped all the papers I'd gotten ready on the table, and told Brian, "Let's do this. I'm giving you the green light." Brian gave me a little smile and put out his hand. Not for any high fives, but to get to work, you know. That same afternoon, I signed the papers giving him power of attorney. No texts or anything to warn me about any changes. This time we were suing. I felt clean, like a big burden was off my shoulders. Mateo's lawyer called Brian weeks after I signed the papers. They wanted to talk settlement, which wasn't a shock. They're all the same, only coming to the table when they're already losing. They only act like they want to work things out nicely once they've lost control. Just like I figured, Brian asked me to his office that Thursday afternoon. He casually showed me a small file and said, "Your family wants to make a deal." I just looked at him, saying nothing. Brian opened the file, slid the top paper over to me, and explained they want to sell the company. But they want to stay on as like advisors. I read it over, sitting there. Everything was technically fine. It all made sense. But I just didn't want anything to do with them anymore. I looked up, my voice steady, and even not all bitter like I was done with bending over backward. "Tell them I'm not interested," I said. Brian gave a little nod. I didn't ask why. I got up, grabbed my coat, and faced him before heading out. I'm not buying the company. I'm not hiring relatives as consultants. I paused, then finished it off. I'm not saving a family just to keep being treated like a cash machine. The trial started 3 months after Mateo put up that fake information. Even though the Manhattan courthouse was right near my place, I left early that morning. I needed a few minutes in the car to just breathe, get myself together, and remind myself I was doing this for justice, not because I was mad. When I went into the courtroom, there was Mateo. He was sitting next to his lawyer, looking nervous, trying to stay cool. The cockiness and that look of total disdain he had when we fought at home was gone. He kept his eyes down more than up that day. I was ready for it. Brian was ready. He laid out every loss, every canceled deal, every store closure, the money that had gone down the drain, and the employee pay cuts. Every claim was backed up by official stamps, receipts, and paperwork. Nothing was made up. Mateo's side said the message was personal, that they didn't expect the damage, and that people got the wrong idea. But nobody in that courtroom believed almost 30,000 shares was a misunderstanding. I kept my eyes on the table as the judge read the summary. No need to see Mateo. I listened quietly as the words came out. So the judge said Mateo, my cousin, owed me $248,000 for the damage he caused. Dead silence in the room after that. I got up and walked out. I didn't even bother looking for Mateo's reaction. Honestly, I didn't care. It was like putting a final full stop on a crazy, drawn-out story that should have ended a long time ago. I won, but it wasn't about teaching anyone a lesson. I just finally got my act together. Later, I heard he had to sell the family business, the one they always bragged about, and his house to pay me. I didn't dig around for details. I didn't need to know the nitty-gritty. The only thing that mattered was that they'd ignored my warnings. They made their bed, now they had to lie in it. Things were quiet for half a year. Then 3 days ago, boom, it all came crashing back like a bad dream. It was Saturday morning, 7 a.m. sharp, the exact time they'd first hit me up for that $120,000. The sky was gray and gloomy. I opened the door, and there was my mom. Her eyes were all red and puffy, her face was gaunt, and she was clutching her purse strap like it was a lifeline. She didn't say anything at first. Then this tiny, shaky voice whispered, "It's Dad. He's in the hospital. It's really bad this time. They say the treatment's going to be almost $20,000. I know I was wrong, but please, just this once, help me." I just stood there. I wasn't mad, not right then. I felt nothing, just this hollow ache inside, something I knew all too well. When I saw I was stuck in the same old loop, I just stared at her. I let out a breath, more of a sigh than words, mostly to myself. My folks died the day you both let Mateo wreck my life and didn't say a word. And dead people don't need money. She froze, completely still. I didn't cry or beg, just stood there, my lips trembling. She looked like she wanted to speak, but couldn't. I didn't waste any time. I took a deep breath and said plainly, "Ask your conscience." Then I carefully shut the door, making it clear it wasn't opening again. Maybe some of you think I'm a terrible person, heartless, unforgiving. If that's your take on it, hold your judgment for a minute. Honestly, that afternoon, after Mom left the hospital, I stayed away from Dad's room. No dramatic window scene like in the movies. I just called the information desk, gave them his name, and asked for an update. I needed to know if she was telling the truth, and she was. My dad was in the hospital, and his treatment cost around 20 grand. I had all my paperwork right there. I almost pulled out my credit card. But then I instantly thought back to Easter the year before, when they toasted, practically handing everything over to Mateo right in front of me, begging me to understand. The next morning I was still reeling, so I made a few calls. I double-checked with some real estate people to make sure my parents actually owned their house. It wasn't mortgaged, it hadn't been transferred to anyone else. It's worth around 400 grand, that place. They could easily sell that stuff to cover the medical bills. But I didn't pay for the hospital. I sent my mom a text. "You still have the house," I wrote. "Sell it to help Dad." She didn't answer me. Maybe she was torn up, attached to the place, or because the house was always supposed to go to Mateo. Maybe she didn't believe I wouldn't step in again. Whatever the reason, I don't care anymore. It's their call if they want to sell it or not. I've made my own choices. I'm not going back. After everything, I don't expect anything from my family. I still believe in the idea of family, though. Now I get it, family isn't always blood. Sometimes you find your family. I used to think if I tried hard enough, if I did everything right, they'd see what I did and be grateful. But some people, they only care about what you can do for them after you're already done. I don't want this to bum anyone out or make them mad. I'm putting this out there because I feel like someone's listening. Maybe someone out there is in my shoes. Just because they did better, are they supposed to understand everything and always be strong? I just want to say this. You're not a bad person for saying no. You're not selfish for not putting up with being treated badly over and over. Sometimes you gotta set boundaries when you're being kind. Sometimes you just gotta let go of love when it's all on your side. Before I go, I want to ask you guys, the ones who stuck around and listened, was I wrong to walk away from a family that always treated me like their second choice and ditched me when I had nothing to give? So, was I a jerk for not being there for someone who'd basically ditched me, when I really needed them? Thanks for hanging out with me while we unpack this crazy family mess.